Good morning to everybody watching all of us. And as Shivraj already said, this whole discussion is going to center around the theme that have we be able to find a space for ourselves within the mainstream. So in the last few years, which have coincided with the reading down of Section 377, we have seen the mainstream pop culture space opening up a little bit for queer performers, artists, and creators. And at this juncture, I think it's still just the beginning of the ride, but it's important to take a moment to think about, have we been able to break through the mainstream in reality? What do we see our role as queer artists in terms of the mainstream? And do we lose some of our authenticity in trying to integrate and fit the template which the mainstream demands? So I'm very happy to begin this discussion, and I'll go to Onir first. And my question to you, Onir, is that your movie, My Brother Nikhil, which is like iconic now, came out in 2005. So since then, do you feel that the struggles to tell a story revolving around a queer person or a queer theme, has it gotten easier? And do you feel that now you are more part of the mainstream, or are you still on the sidelines as a queer director? So what do you have to say about that? We would love
Uh,
to know.
Hi, Ayushman. Thank you for the introduction. Hi, everyone else on the panel. I think this is a question that I am answering all the time. So I'll try, let me answer it a little differently. I feel that one is the best answer is you yourself. If you really look around from 2005 to now 2020, and of how many films have you had in the mainstream Hindi films or Indian films in general, which is actually about the community or has any of the LGBTQI members as the central main lead. Whereas I don't think proportionate to the number of films that the country makes, the number of queer teen films has increased at all. I don't think so. Secondly, I feel actually that the challenges have in many ways increased right now because earlier, like I've made my films independently, and now with the current situation, especially, you are all dependent on platforms, and platforms also, like commercial cinema, operate on what grabs the maximum eyeballs. So queer themes are still not as popular as, then of course people will be there who say that why don't you just put it on YouTube, but who pays for it? So it's a, when you make a film, it's the commercials are huge. Having said that, I feel there are other avenues that's opening up which many queer artists are using, like Sushant is using. So I feel that we need to acknowledge the power of short films, short content, be it on IGTV, be it on YouTube, and I think that is something which is an interesting growing space.
All right. Yeah, thank you, Anir. I would go to Rudrani next. Rudrani, your last movie was longlisted for the Oscars, right? But I think as a trans woman, what challenges do you continue to face, and what did it take for you to even get that one opportunity, which was huge? And do you get the recognition which is commensurate to an artist like you? What do you have to say about that?
Thank you, Lash. And I think as a transgender artist, especially in India, where you do have, a lot of ideas about you, so it actually becomes a little difficult to be as an artist. For any artist, I believe in this world, the identity of artist is the most important for that person. It comes first, beside what gender he she is, or like where they come from. So I think it is overshadowed. It is, sometimes people do not acknowledge that they believe that we are just there for sake of their requirement, but beside that we are not considered as artists. So it is felt most of the time, but I think we need to make our space and we need to fight for it. And I think And the best for it to prove it by being there, be on that screen and do your best and let people say, okay, no, they deserve it. It's not like, we are doing it for sake of doing it. Just there is a requirement, but actually these people are artists and they deserve more than just what we require. I think they need to give us our space to create and bring up something nice which we believe is important for the world to view from our eyes and our perspective.
Yes, yes, that's very correct. That you need to have that space and not just be treated as tokens within the mainstream. I'm going to go to Naveen next because your story is very interesting. You are India's only openly gay stand-up comedian. So how did that happen? Like, what made you come out, and what was your journey like? If you can just tell us briefly.
It was just like I went to an open mic one day and I just came out. That's how it happened. There was no precursor to it because I just like I went to an open mic and I'd seen comedy before going trying my mic. And every show I went to, there were like these stereotypically South Bombay upper class boys who were just blabbering the same shit. मेरी girlfriend छोड़ के चली गई, मैंने engineering किया, मेरा हाथ मेरा girlfriend है. The same five lines which kept on repeating. Which I was just like, okay, where's the variance, where's the diversity in the ideas? And I'm like, oh my god, I'm sitting on so much about my life which is unique, but I'm also embarrassed by it because when you start talking about your gay life, there's certain level of like chi tu ye karta hai, like to anal sex karta hai. So like the reason was like I decided to tackle that only and make fun of that perception before anybody could else. So every time I came out to my friends, like before coming out openly, I came out to 4 people from my friends group, and all of them had stupid reactions. Like even my friends who were educated were like, "Oh, did someone hit you on the balls, or did something happen? Were you molested as a child?" I'm like, "Why is that the most extreme situation you're going to?" And hence, like the comedy situation happened. And after I started, like people were like, "Hey, this is unique to you. This is more than you can, develop." And hence, I got into like over the past 5 years, I've built like 2 shows purely based on like a queer life in India.
Yeah. That's really great, and your videos are amazing and hilarious to watch. Sushant, of all the people that I can think, and you're part of our drag, community. Um, of all the people that I can think of, you have really transcended. Your popularity has transcended just within beyond the LGBTQ community. And over the lockdown, I saw videos of you singing were shared by people all over Facebook groups and liked by millions of people. So one reason, one argument why we should be integrated into the mainstream is that it helps people understand maybe queer people better, and like the stigma reduces or the understanding increases. So have you felt, what do you think in your experience, like the popularity that you have gained and the kind of fame that you have, has that helped people in understanding queer people? And because drag is such a out there art form, it's just out and out queer in that sense. So what do you think about that?
My gosh, Lush, aren't those the nicest words you've ever said to me?
Oh my god.
And so, first of all, let me just say that it's my honor to be in such esteemed company. And Onir, of course, for all of us is like that fairy god, father, mother, whatever he want with whatever this he wants to go with. And Rudrani, is one of the finest. Forget artists, one of the finest people for the trans community. And I've had the honor of being on the panel, on multiple panels with all three of these wonderful people. Okay, and Rudrani, and when you asked her, about her, is she getting as much as she deserves? Absolutely not. She should get way more, in my opinion, and she should be cast in a leader. You have to see her. She's a fierce queen, and I love Rudrani. And of course, Navin Noronha, who is my neighbor now and bitches about Bandra, but now lives in Bandra, and I love him. I think Naveen has got, such talent, such immense talent. And I'm always in the front row at most of his shows, and he never picks on me. Never. I'm waiting for Naveen to pick on me, like, during his act. Never. He never. I don't know why. But I love you, Naveen. So yeah, as you said, I think that I didn't, when I started when I was 16, and when I think this was about a year and a half after um, I watched my brother Nikhil, on screen, and it was so beautifully portrayed. And I remember watching it in the theater with my parents and my brother, and we were. It was a very beautiful concept, and it was away from all the crap that was that was being celebrated, the mediocrity that was celebrated, let me tell you. And I thought that the essence of the movie really caught the pulse. And as a 15-year-old, I was very impressed and said that it was like that could be me. That was one of the first films that I watched as a teenager that I could understand and say that that could be me. And after that, I started becoming very unapologetic about myself, and I said that, and this is what you see today. It's not like it's a muscle I've built over the years, but stuff like that. And when we talk about mainstreaming queer content in pop culture, or we don't have any pop culture references. And if we are going to say that this is all that the pop culture references you have, these four people, we need many, many more. And I saw all these videos going viral and stuff like that, and I just realized that we also have to, of course, make an effort to kind of align ourselves with the pulse. And you have to like hit the pulse, and you have to hit the nail. When it comes to content creation, it's not easy, but the thing is that also we all have our own pros and cons, and you need to kind of forward your pros, and make sure that people can watch you, celebrate you, and regardless of your orientation, because art has no gender, art has no barriers, art has no language. So I think that when you celebrate your art, and your sexuality and your orientation is just one of the other characteristics as an artist, it's not the whole, it's not revolving around that. I think that that automatically then appeals to many more people, in my opinion.
Yeah. And do you think that it has made people aware about what drag is? It makes them curious, or like it makes them wonder what is this whole thing about? Like, what do you think? Like, what kind of comments and questions do you get
Of
when you put out
course,
your videos? Yes.
I do drag because I want to see the shocked reactions on people's face. I want to be like, ये क्या है, ये कौन है, नहीं है, ये क्या है, ये कहाँ से है, and then they need to do their research, because it's very easy, on the internet to troll people, to say nasty things. We've all got it. Okay, but that same internet also gives you the information that you actually can go and look for. So when people say that no, but we feel bad that they're probably not educated and they're not aware of it, it's the same internet connection that can actually get you to Google and actually help you. So you have to just type what a drag queen is, or what queer is, or what LGBT is. So you can't advocate and condone such behavior, which is bullying behavior. And I think that it's great that people are more aware, and people are questioning as to what is this, and what is this new form of, how do we get to know more about this. It's great that I create that sort of a intrigue in people. I love it.
Yeah, there's certainly intrigue there. Yeah, so but when a subculture tries to fit into like a larger culture, very often what happens is that sometimes it can get like consumed completely within that larger culture. There is a certain expectation that comes with it. So on it, like where do you draw the line? Like how do you carve out your niche, and you want to stay true to yourself and tell your stories, but at the same time the demands and expectations from the mainstream, how do you balance all that and kind of retain your authenticity?
I feel it really depends on you, what you want in life. Is it
Mhm.
to merge with the mainstream, to merge with a larger identity, or celebrate your own unique identity? And I think all of us value our identity as it is, and treasure it and nurture it. Like I could have, like after my brother Nikhil moved on, like people keep telling me, okay, now you have done enough of these, why don't you do something mainstream? But this is where I find my happiness. This is where I celebrate my identity, and it's a conscious decision not to merge with but slowly, at the same time, it's important to grow to a wider audience. So one is constantly navigating what is around one and thinking of ways to expand that niche into a bigger niche till maybe one day we'll be in a world where we will be mainstream. I mean, there won't be these walls dividing, saying this is mainstream and this is not. And I think that is what the journey is, not by becoming them, but by making us grow day by day into a space that will, that they will want to come and join.
That's true. And all the stories that you have told till now, they tell stories of complex queer characters, which are not just limited to the physical act of sex, but it's beyond. It covers, different aspects of queer lives. And as queer artists, we'll always have that point of view. But then, how do you avoid being pigeonholed or being typecasted as only as, okay, this is just a queer director who's gonna tell a queer story? Because that every director who comes forward, they have their point of view which stems from their socio cultural background. So as a director, you'll always have your queer point of view, but then how do you avoid that, being typecast?
I think typecast, it is how, again, I feel that no one can typecast you as long as you don't typecast yourself. One, I am not ashamed of being a queer director. Okay, though I feel my identity as a filmmaker is much more the kind of films I make. Queer subject is one of the themes I deal with. It's not the be all and end all. There will be, the society will objectify us and put us into these brackets. But the idea is, as long as you don't believe in those brackets, what is dangerous is if I start believing that, oh, I can only do queer films, then that is when I start restricting my growth. But if I don't believe in those, cage made for me, in the cage that is being made, then I can easily fly much beyond and explore themes. And that's when, as a filmmaker, you start getting recognized beyond your sexual identity. Just like I think Sushant beautifully put, artists is not about gender or sexuality. Art is not about gender or sexuality. Of course, each of our history, sexuality, everything that we are made of contributes to what we build, but it is not one simple definition.
Correct. um, Naveen, you have also spoken about your experience after coming out as a stand-up comedian who is also queer, and you've also spoken about tokenism to certain extent. So, what was your experience after the coming out? Like, has it you gotten easier, worse? Or what has it been like? Yes.
Um, so comedy, as we all know right now, because of all the controversies that happened, is mainly like it's a major dick pic. Like that's what it is. I think comedy became like this whole woke culture to become a part of, so you can say what you want and say it's just a joke, man. Whereas where I was coming from was that I was the one who was made fun of all the time. Like this comic called Nitin Gupta from Delhi. I was an open micer at Canvas Laugh Club, and I was sitting in the audience, and he said this joke. Okay, he said this joke which said, there's a batsman driving a ball straight towards the bowler, and the bowler had to catch it in the last moment because वरना उसके चक्के के चक्कर में उसका नहीं उसके चौके के चक्कर में छक्का बन जाता. Like he said that line, okay, and I'm like, are you a mainstream comic and saying these words when I went before you? I'm an open micer who's queer and I went before you, So these are the things that I think are the bigger challenges in comedy because there's no understanding of what to say and how to say it right. I mean, I'm like, by all means, make a gay joke. By all means, make a disability joke, but make it funny. If you're going to be a comedian, then be a funny. Don't just say offensive words and hope that hey, this will fly. And most of the times it flies because the common janta is so like ready to lap it up. They're like, oh, we don't want diverse opinions. We just want the same opinions, served to us on a different platter, which is like making fun of them. So hence even now like we kind of struggle with that. If you see the mainstream comedy, like my mom, she doesn't watch my comedy, she'll watch something like Kapil Sharma, which is on TV. And what Kapil Sharma propagates is again the same thing, like men cross dressing and acting crazy. They're not respecting women. Like the only difference between like Sushant and all the drag queens that you all elevate the art of drag and you all make womanhood seem desirable, while they make womanhood seem like what the hell is this. jumping on couches, abusing, doing crass things. So that's the perception that they want to serve us, and we have to constantly fight and say that, hey, this is not it. Like if I'm gay, then just sucking dicks and taking dicks up my ass is not my whole deal. There's so much more to me. You have to understand. Then that's why I felt the need to like talk about it from that perspective. Like, hey, we have dating issues, we have breakups, we have heartbreaks, we have STIs, we have so many, we have issues with housing, so many things that affect our lives which we don't get to talk about because we're still stuck on the same thing. Yeah, yeah, call us chakka, call us mamu, call us good. Like, use the same words again and again. And after some time, it becomes dehumanizing. So hence, for me, the struggle was from the very beginning. I realized that there were promoters who were not going to book me for what I talk about. One clear instance was at Blue Frog, which used to be a big thing back in the day in Mumbai. At Blue Frog, I did a set and people laughed. People had a great time. But the promoter pulled me aside after the show and said, "Hey, man, this is a venue where families come. So maybe don't talk about being gay all the time." I'm like, there could be
What?
there could be a gay child with those families. Do you want to tell them? Do you want to give the idea that, hey, it's not okay to be gay, and I have to shun myself for your show? So, and then they only shut down the venue. So good for them. But
No, but listen, Blue, but
yeah,
that's what I'm shocked because your promoter should have lost his job, their job,
exactly.
because Blue Frog has been usually one of the most inclusive place. So I'm shocked. Like it's like saying that you can't say you're gay at Kitty Sue. It's like that because
Exactly.
Yes.
Blue
So
Frog has
that's what,
celebrated queer artists.
even if the venue is very pro or whatever, there are people who are then involved in the middle, right? So the middlemen are the
Yeah.
issue. So if their homophobia is not
Yes.
solved, then nothing can be solved. Like even with Canvas Laugh Club, there was a promoter who wouldn't book me unless he was fired and somebody else came in and said like, hey, let's give him a chance. So while all the comics around my talent pool or the time that I had spent had gone on to do like 30 minutes at Canvas and getting paid, I was still like, hey, can I please get a chance? So like the fact is that once I got to perform, I was killing every night. So it's just like my friend Akash Mehta, who's also comic, said that you can't do anything but become so good that they can't ignore you. That's the only way that we, as Onir also said, we don't have to aspire to become part of the mainstream. We just have to become so good at what we do that they'll be like, hey, can you join us, please? Because our mainstream is very bland and has black and white
Hmm.
colors. That's why I think that's what happens now.
That's I think that's very, very insightful. Yeah, that like we become so good that and that the mainstream says that okay, ours is so bland and like you guys can come and completely liven up our dying pop culture. Okay, so Sushant, my question to you is that in this whole scheme, like you said that you have to kind of align yourself to the pulse of the mainstream, but then there are people whose art and whose creativity is on like completely on the verge, on the sidelines, and it's not always possible for them to fit into the template. Like for example, when I speak about drag, even when RuPaul's Drag Race is critiqued, people say that it's completely overshadowed other forms of drag in America, which exist on the margins. So, how do you ensure that, like, we don't just become monoliths of like what each of us represent, but pop culture kind of captures the mainstream pop culture captures these different facets of our queer culture. How do you like ensure that?
See, there is always going to be in every community, whether it is men, women, trans people, queer people, any marginalized community, there's always going to be people that are going to be mainstream, and there are also going to be people that are going to be niche. Okay. Now, let me correct you when you say that, oh, this, that, and the other. It is very easy for people to sit on the fence and talk about why isn't this coming and why isn't that being represented. Now, again, I'll tell you, how many people from the queer community do you know that are out there doing their stuff? And how many people from the community support them? Now, you tell me this. Okay. These
Yeah.
are the same people who will say community करने में उनको कोई तकलीफ नहीं होती, but हमारे 200-300 रुपए के टिकट खरीदने में उनको मौत आती है, मौत. हाँ, तो and these are the same people that have an opinion about RuPaul and a Sushant and an Onir and a Rudrani and a Navin. Why can't you step it up and do what you have to do? Don't align yourself. You're saying you don't want to align yourself. Don't align yourself. At least create content. At least show the world what you've got. It's very easy for me to sit over here and bitch somebody else out. It's very difficult to walk in our shoes because we are like, we have exposed ourselves so much to the mainstream and to the public domain that we're the ones taking the stones. You think that Onir doesn't want to, make a film that was commercially successful? Of course, anyone would, right? But with his own script, he doesn't want to fall prey to, as he said. Now, even I would like to do that, but my thing is that I will do that, this, and the other, whatever pays my bills. Excuse me. Nobody tells me what to do. I'm sorry. You don't tell me what to do, or nobody tells me what to do, or I don't tell you how to, fuck, for example, or do what you're doing. Don't teach the queen how to do shit, because if I didn't know how to do shit, I wouldn't be here, right?
Correct.
And my thing is that if you think you can do it better, please go ahead. We are waiting for more faces from the community. But for you to sit there and be, entitled at a time when Rudrani and Onir to, from how many years? Who was there that time? When have you all been? At least Navin and I are now 10, 12 years, 14 years, whatever. The Onir and all the Ghazal and Apurva and all have been there for so many years. Where were all of you? Where were all these discussions? So my thing is that please save this, like we can be. Now you want real talk, this is real talk, honey.
Yeah, I totally
And
agree
the
with
thing is,
Sushant there.
yeah, no, I'm sorry, but because the thing is that, it is very, very important to understand that I have gone to a Naveen's show. Apart from me and my date, who also had to kick out because it was such a lousy date, that was the only queer audience that was watching a queer artist. Where are the queer people coming to support queer artists?
Yeah.
And then you expect the mainstream that the mainstream ही सब करेगा. अरे क्यों? जब तुम्हारा marginalized community है, तुम community कह रहे हो अपने आप को, show the sentiment ना. Show the sentiment for how many people, how many artists who, or all these people that talk about all these things and representation, how many people spoke about the trans bill?
Yeah.
So it's a matter of perspective.
No, I think that's a very, very important point that you highlighted, is about like uplifting everyone together. It's not just one person's responsibility, but everybody's to support each other and lift each other up. And that's very important if we think of ourselves as a community. Do any of you want to comment on that, or like, chime in?
I agree because see now more and more like I find myself, because it's also philosophies, like we come from different ideologies in this country, and like there's a left and there's a right, and somewhere we have to fall in the middle and like be like, okay, do all of you all like me? Please like me, because I'm trying to. But this year I've realized that there's no pleasing anybody. It's more like in the lockdown we should have become stronger. We should have had each other's backs, but I think we fell apart more than ever now. And that's what I think when we talk about the community aspect of it, we are kind of lost. I've seen it from day one since I joined the events and everything. I've seen that there's a clear delineation between people who want to work towards the upliftment, and there's a clear sexual agenda or like agenda to like score or hook up or whatever. So while we can make fun of both of these aspects, where do we find the middle ground? Because while one hand will lift you up, they will pull you down. They're like, why are you getting this? How are you getting this? How did you get a chance? Because I gushed out my ass, as they say in Marathi, right? Like I went around to every open mic. I came out every night to random strangers. Can you believe that? So like I went to different cities and I did that. I went to Haryana and Delhi, where it's not even, I'm alone. I've traveled alone to Haryana. Can you believe that? In Chandigarh, in the remotest bumfuck part of the country, to come out to people and talk about my story. If I did not do that, I don't know if I was able to like get my shit together back then. But now I know for sure that I do it because I like doing it. And if you tell me that you shouldn't do it, then you are nobody, because you didn't do it. As simple as that. As Sushant said, you have to take the initiative and buck up and do it yourself, or keep the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Rather. I'm sorry for my language. I'm a comic.
No, that's completely okay. Like,
Hey, that's the best this thing, huh? It's drag. Don't take it serious. It's drag.
yes.
Yeah.
Best defense. Okay. So, Sushant, you spoke about the importance of paying your bills, and a lot of us operate from that very basic presumption that we need to pay our bills, we need to survive in this world beyond everything else, that we can get out of this industry. So, Rudrani, when I think of you, like, so even when you are part of the mainstream, like, do you think you have to, like, tone yourself down and, be less demanding? Like, is there a certain way that you are treated and you have to conduct yourself in a professional setting just to make this your, living and to earn a living out of this profession? Like, how do you think you fit into the whole scheme of things? Yeah.
To be very honest, I mean, to be very, very honest, if I will make this my living, the only way to earn my bread and butter, I think I'll die. There is no possibility. Most of the time, I've seen when people invite you, give you this script or anything, they come with this, with belief that they are doing a big favor and they are going to change your life forever. And they don't understand that every person in this world who goes and give their time, need to earn something. So that as it is, life is so difficult for me. I'm a single person. I live alone. I need to take care of each and everything. And when at the same time you give me something which is so tempting, I've been wanted to do so my entire life, and but you say we are not going to pay you. So you see, you need to choose sometimes, and I think I have done it a couple of times. I won't name the project which all, but I think to make a statement as an artist that it's not some very fancy word for us. The struggle is same. Maybe it is much more and much harder for us. And as I said, Sushant, you said beautiful things about me, and thank you so much, honey. So, and I agree to your thing that I think a lot of us in this industry do have connections, and we can support each other. For example, I've received scripts for OTT and other things which I don't fit, but I have been helping with the cast, and some of them have done fabulous job, and I'm so proud of them. So I think we need to support community if we want to say, as in queer, as in trans, as in whatever, we are artists. So we need to create that space for us. But yes, it is difficult. Till date, it is so. I now have started feeling say whether I should ask for money or not. If I'll ask, whether it'll what will happen. I don't want another man to be dressed up as
Yes,
and a transgender role.
right.
It doesn't it doesn't make no sense.
Yeah. I'll come here and just say, Rudrani, absolutely right. And this is exactly what I'm saying is that, yes, as artists, as people who have been established over the years, it is our, even if people don't consider it our duty, my thing is that me and you see Navin, me, Rudrani's opened an institute for other trans girls. Do you all know that? So that is something that is, I mean, appreciable to another extent. Naveen always, just the other day he was telling me there's an open mic, it's a queer open mic, why don't you? And I said, Naveen, please, and now this is too much. Like, no. And my thing is that, we support each other. Lush, you know that in drag
Yes.
also, but you also know this, Lush, and you also, all of y'all also know that there are queer artists, as Naveen pointed out, that bring each other down.
Mhm.
That crab mentality is there. If that's going to persist, you can't expect that you're going to have a superstar from the queer community. That it doesn't have to necessarily be mainstream, but like even in their particular uh, form of presenting their art or expression. And my thing is that, when Rudrani said, definitely I use my platform, she uses her platform, Naveen uses his platform, as a function of us just being out in the public domain. That is enough representation that we are giving. We don't owe anyone an explanation. But yes, if we have the resources, we must help the next person. It is our duty because we've been put on a pedestal for a reason. And as she said, you won't believe it. There was this one person who Naveen also knows. I can't name that person, but I will call Naveen after this and we will have a discussion. We will also rope in Rudrani for this, because
Me
the
too.
thing is that, no, and the thing
Yeah.
is that the casting director called me and said, do you have any trans women that can come and audition for this role, for this series on a very big OTT platform? And I said, yes, and gave, no, they look too trans, but do you have someone who doesn't look as trans as them? And I'm like, are
Mm.
you in your senses? Because if you're anywhere around and if you had to say this to my face, you would have got what?
Correct.
I would have whooped your ass. I said, how dare you speak like this? Like, what do you mean? No, they're like, they need to look a little effeminate. Need to look more feminine. They're looking a little
Hmm.
trans to me. So you're saying
Hmm.
that a trans person looks too trans to play a trans role? What
Yeah.
am I missing here? You
I think
know,
they had a prosthetic penis ready and they want to just like go with that. They're like, if we spend money on this prosthetic penis, so we need
I
to
was
attach
like,
it
oh my
somewhere.
God. So
Yeah.
people, even content creators, like even directors, even writers, people who make films, people who create content, have the money to change people's mindset, have to really be sensitized and sensible as to when they approach matters like this, because they're very sensitive matters. You can't just be sitting and just saying stuff like this and not being reprimanded, for God's sake. You can't
Like
do that.
on the
Absolutely.
same thing, like Sushant, as you said, like I agree with that totally, because when I get calls for like being a queer person in an ad or in a sketch, because it's the way I am. I'm just like I don't think like I think I have both feminine and manly sides, so I don't think of it like that. But they ask me to like be more flamboyant. They're like, you just use your hand a little bit, just talk like this now. Remember Abhishek Bachchan from that movie? I'm like, are you referencing that as the character I should play? So like that happens a lot now again, because there's a perception that has been served to the mainstream, and that's what they want us to like stick to. And when something delineates from that, they're like, how can you do this? So the idea always is that authenticity is not celebrated. That's the biggest problem in the mainstream right now, is that they will write something for you, or they will decide something that has been decided for you, and you have to fit in that mold. If you don't, then somebody else is ready with a cisgender background, obviously, to take that up and then get all the accolades which you could have gotten by doing the genuine hard work that you could have done. So
I think what
Absolutely.
Naveen is pointed out is actually really really significant, because this happens because mostly people who control content across platforms, there is very little queer representation. So mostly these people decide that, okay, I am comfortable to this extent with a gay character or a lesbian character or trans. They can't be too trans or too gay or whatever, because then my audience can't deal with it. So these are the people who decide. Unfortunately, the queer community is not deciding what stories should be told or are being told. It is constantly, people who are, I feel that if you, I mean, I don't believe that it should be only queer people who tell our stories, but I feel that we need our representation, because the queer gauge is different. Just like
Absolutely.
you need very not
Yeah. Yeah.
coming
Onir, your
up to
voice
see
is
them,
breaking a
I'm
little
going
bit. Yeah.
to, is this better? Is this better?
Yes.
Is
Yes.
this better? Yeah.
Yes. Much
Yeah.
better.
I said I often have directors coming up to me and telling that I'm thinking of doing your kind of film. And I want to tell, don't do it. Because if it's your, then just stay out of it. You're not. So I feel that we need more of us telling our stories, and we need to demand that right, because uh, that is what will make a difference, because I don't see any of us telling someone that you don't be too gay or too trans.
also I was like
Yeah.
quickly want to add, like I've been in the queer circuit for like 5-6 years now. Before I even came out, I was already like actively participating in events and everything, and I was on all the Facebook forums. Like we have like several support groups and everything. And when I started doing my podcast or my videos, I would put them out on these groups saying that, hey guys, I need a support because I'm very new in the scene, and if you all can, if my community can share, then 2 likes in 1 week, while some guy will post a photo of his abs and 20,000 people are like lusting over it. And I'm like, that's the problem. That's the issue over here right now. That I don't get support from the people, because then they'll watch later on somebody else, somebody straight has to send them the video. Hey, look, there's a gay comic, and big, wow, I love you. Too late, too late, asshole. You were given the chance. I was there. I was asking. I was begging for shares, and you didn't do that. So that's the issue I feel.
That's absolutely true. Like, I mean, there are numerous times when I've shared, content related to drag on these groups, and they will never ever react on it, struggling with kind of their own little bit of like homophobia and like misogyny,
Yeah, there,
and
there are
so
there are posts about marriage of convenience that get more likes
yes,
than my post. I'm
yes,
like,
yes,
that's amazing.
absolutely. Absolutely, yeah, and the same videos, if you post it on a general audience, you'll get way more likes, because also it's an object of curiosity for them. So I think we'll open for questions now, and everybody watching, you can send in your questions, and we'll try to take as many as we can.
Before
Um,
anyone asks me, let me just tell everyone that I am single.
so okay, you can send Rishtas also in the comments for
And I'm open
Sushant.
for threesomes. Just like
Okay,
putting
okay.
that.
Threesomes for Naveen and Rishtas for me and Sushant. Okay, so the first question that we have is that with the OTT coming under censorship too, would queer cinema stand a chance in India? And what do you think is the future of queer cinema in that regard? I think, Onir, would you like to answer that question?
Yeah, I feel that it is something that is worrisome because already, the platforms everyone uses queer content as because it's not popular as one of the reasons for not encouraging, and this becomes another tool to say that, oh, we don't want to do this because we might, it might offend someone sitting in UP that this is not our culture.
Yeah.
So I feel that it is something that we need to worry about as artists, not only as queer artists, but for us even more because this will be used. It's not a question of if it will be used to try and cut down what we can talk about, like, again, I fear how it will attack the drag performances, all these spaces as what is so-called not cultural and not Indian for them.
Correct. We drag performers have already had their share of that. We've had, like, posts and complaints and everything. Okay, that your performances are too out there, it's too sensuous, this, that, it's obscene and everything. So we have kind of faced it already. But like, Naveen, are you scared of this thing? Like one day you might just find a hashtag on Twitter, boycott Naveen, or something happening. Are you scared of
If,
that?
if,
Because your content is very out there. Yes.
if they say boycott Naveen, I'll just assume that there's a boy on a cot and there's nothing I can do. I think, see, I think that's a difficulty, right? This whole cancel culture is like, while it's right in terms of calling certain people out for their behavior, it can be misused to an extent that is misconstrued from your angle also, right? So that is a different topic. I think I'll just quickly address the OTT thing as well, because I also write for media, and I'm currently writing a series
Correct.
which is queerly, which is purely a queer character based narrative, and I want to like go out there because our love stories are not.
Naveen, I have not received the script.
I've not finished it yet. I'm procrastinating. Sorry. There's a virus. Anyways, so no, I'll tell you why I'm procrastinating also, because in the middle of my writing process, the IRB ministry thing came out. The news came out that now there'll be a bunch of old farts who'll control your content and tell how they should, perceive it. So I'm like, should I just write a scene where there's a blowjob and then immediately it brings Gaumotra after that? Should that be the way to go about it? Because it's crazy, because then you want to write something that is authentic and that's like really coming from your life, and you want two queer people to have the attraction and love that we see like Ragini MMS situations do. So I think the whole situation came because of Ekta Kapoor, because she went all crazy with all Balaji. Now they're like, none of you can show all this. So so there's always this fear of like, what do I do? How do I do it correctly? Will it appease people? And as you said, my content is out there. It only because like I stopped giving a fuck. I just like, at one point I was like, I cannot appease people. I'm gonna say how I want to say it. I don't care about being family friendly. But if more families came to my show, they'll be friendlier. That's how I put it like that.
Correct. Okay. So we don't have that much time left, but I think we'll take just one last question. The person says that they are very, very, they respect all the hardships that all of four of you have gone through to reach where you are today. But if there is one good thing about this whole journey which you can share so that we can end on a positive note, this whole discussion. Yes. So, Onir, would you like to start?
I feel that more than anything, this journey for me, all the hurdles, whatever has been worth it, because I had one dream, is not to be afraid and not to have to live a life which is flawed. So I am right now making the films that I want to. I'm out and proud. And I feel that, what more would I want out of life? To be doing the one thing that I love the most and tell the stories that matters to me the most. And I think that is worth every hurdle that one cross or will cross.
Correct. Sushant.
Well, I would just like to say that, I'm always, it's a new day, it's a new slay for me. Let me just say, and I'm not going to stop because someone doesn't like my content or something like that, because I think that, as I said, art has no barriers. And I think people need to look at an artist for being an artist first. And yes, as Onir put it, very beautifully articulated it, I think he should have been asked last, because he would have summed up all of
Yeah,
this
Yes,
yeah.
very
yes.
beautifully. Now
I
we are
got that.
sounding like garbage. So yeah, but I think that whatever we've gone through, I think all our journeys, all our stories, they're going to at the end of it, it's a beautiful journey. Because if we would have had it easier, I don't think we would have respected the process as much as we do. And you can ask any of these beautiful people and artists that, and you, Lush, by the way, Lush himself is a fantastic artist.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you,
and I
thank you.
think that that whole process, and as an artist, that
Yeah,
it's a journey. It's not a destination. It's a continuous journey. And I think that it's so beautiful when we have like-minded people, and even people that are not like-minded, because otherwise it'll get boring. I might want to
Yeah.
like
yeah,
scratch your eye out if you're too nice to me also.
yeah.
So I like that whole back and forth, and I think it's great. We'll manage, and we're doing pretty well. And nowadays, and whenever somebody asks me how are you, I'm like, I'm successful, thanks. And you?
That's a great way of putting it.
And
Naveen, what do you have
that's
to
the
say?
tea, honey.
You're the queen of catchphrases today.
Was it an Andrew Christian fan?
Yes,
Oh,
darling, my
the
underwear also, you
underwear.
want?
We come to the underwear I was asking. Anyways, I think for me, last year this came to like the fore because I was performing in Bangalore and somebody messaged me a day after my show that they had brought their friends to the show to see how they react to me, and the friends enjoyed the show so much that the person decided to come out with them next day. So I think that's where I won, because if I can normalize the conversation around gay people, then more people like him can, or them can, then initiate the conversation with their friends, and slowly but steadily we can have a utopian world where we are not ostracized. And that, I think, is a win every time I come out to people.
Correct. Rudrani, would you like to sum it up?
So, good note. I think the beautiful part about the whole journey is I think I can dream and I can, be whatever I want to be. The beautiful part is, though there is a lot of, struggles, but whenever I'm upset, I can dream of playing this Cleopatra or anything. I can be anyone. So the beautiful part about this journey is like, I can be who I want to be and I don't have to explain it. Even if I'm not getting this opportunity, I can, do it for myself. I can stand in front of mirror and, enact it. Second is, when young kids who are transitioning and who want to transition and who see themselves, who identify as a trans person, and they say like, हम भी आपकी तरह बनना चाहते हैं मतलब I mean by what as a profession I'm doing, as an artist I'm doing, they want to be the same, and it gives so much, courage and hope that I think we have a lot of, things to do. Yeah.
That was beautiful. Yes. So I think the biggest takeaway from all four of you today is that, like, through your art, through your lives, you've all tried to remain as authentic to yourselves and just live your life. And everything else has just followed, even if it has come with certain costs and certain risks involved. But that is how you create your own niche within this mainstream, and like, protect your identities as well as, become part of the whole larger mainstream. So I would like to thank all four of you for, coming today and joining this discussion. It was so insightful. All four of you are iconic in your own fields. And I really thoroughly enjoyed this discussion. And I thank the Rainbow Lit Fest platform for giving us this opportunity to come together. And yeah, so thank you to everyone.
Wait,
Thank
wait,
you.
wait. I
Yes,
have to
yes,
just
yes.
say, I have to
Go,
end. I
go.
have to end by
Yes.
saying that don't worry about the censorship and all. Lush is she's a drag queen in the night. She's a
Yes.
lawyer in the day. So don't worry.
Yeah.
We'll manage.
वो lawyer की degree फर्जी है, but ठीक है.
थोड़ा तो हम
बाकी
लोग
सबकी
यूज करे तेरे को.
हाँ
As my drag
Now
sister
you
says कि
now
दीदी lawyer बन के क्या हुआ, नाच तो तुम बाहर में ही रही हो ultimately. So that's how I put it up. Okay,
All
thank
right.
you everyone for joining
Bye
us.
And
bye.
thank you
Thank you
so
so much.
much, everyone. And Ayushman, thank you. And I think my one takeaway is I think the community needs to really step up and support all these wonderful artists out there. Not just say we're from the community. That's something Sushant said. And I think that will stick with me as well. Thank you all for being here and giving us your time.